Welcome to WeTaku Anime Reviews. Uh, Extraordinarily always on time, definitely once every 2 weeks podcast, in which four friends get together and we review anime. I'm your host, Jovan. My weebology degree is somewhere around here. I'm actually back in college trying to get a double major, so, maybe I'll be able to major in something other than just shonen. But right now, I'm Shonen Bro for life, and with me are my three co-hosts. Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Thomas, and I am getting back into D&D.
Good man.
Alright, I'm Steven, and I think I'm going to switch my weebology degree to specifically Sakamichi no Apollon.
Joke's on you, we titled this the English one. They don't know what you're talking about.
Kids on the slope, adolescents on an incline.
Why didn't I title this Adolescence on an Incline? My god.
I didn't feel like looking up the real thing.
Kids on the downward trajectory.
No, I'm sorry, Adolescence on an Incline wins. It beats Children on a Downward Trajectory. God, I need to retweet. I failed my tweet to advertise this. GG. We're done. Welcome. Thank you for joining WeTaku Anime Reviews. We'll see you guys in a few weeks. Bye. Allan, introduce yourself.
No, I don't need to introduce myself. I'm simply
I
here.
see.
Okay then.
We all here.
So, spoiled a little bit here. Today we are reviewing Kids on a Slope, Adolescents on an Incline, Children on a Downward Spiral, or Sakamichi no Apollon. You get every title there?
Ooh.
This is it starts off as a music anime and ends as a not quite as music anime by... Oh wow, I'd actually know Watanabe did this. Watanabe did this! I think we did this, we talked about it at the end of last time too. Yeah, by Watanabe, so a certain level of quality is probably going to come through, and you also know that... Actually, I'd say unlike most of Watanabe's works, this was not directed towards an American audience, but towards Japanese audience, which for him is quite rare because the Japanese don't usually like his stuff as much as we do.
Also, what was interesting about it is it's not set current. It's I don't know personally, but from me just watching it, it looked like the 60s, but I don't know.
Yeah, 1966 actually.
Oh,
Well played. Well played indeed. Good call. Yeah, it's said a little bit earlier on. It's about jazz and how it brings friends together mostly. And I think I would like to say before we get into it that this anime isn't so much a slice of life or character driven in that we take a direct cut of their life and we just live with them for that bit, like you would get in a lot of different slice of lives. I would say that this is more of, you get snapshots. We got a snapshot of their freshman year in high school, and then you kind of cut for a while, and then snapshot back a little bit later, then cut for a little bit, then snapshot back. So it's not so much like a direct following as it is like the important moments of their young adulthood. So that should be noted. If you're not into not having a completely direct storyline, be warned now. Maybe not your thing, but I actually really enjoyed it. And with that, let's cut into the story, shall we? So I gave story a 8 out of 10, and we're going to talk about the same problem we always talk about when we have character-driven stories. How do you review the story? This time around, I gave it a higher than usual for this kind of story score. That was a hard one to say. Because I actually thought that they didn't try to have a real story. They didn't try to have an overarching anything, really. It was 100% characters. It was 100% how they interacted, what they did, why they did, but all of it was based off of their decisions. And although some of those decisions felt strange, they did not feel out of character for any of the characters. So I feel that the complete lack of an overarching storyline actually strengthened what was happening there, and I think it led to a better plot than if they had tried to make a plot. And I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. I may have overcompensated because I liked it a lot, and so I may have brought it down a little too much. But I did notice that it is not a very great story. It's not about the story. You're just in it to watch it and watch the people, not the series of events. You're not watching the events. And I did have a problem with it going a little too fast sometimes. It doesn't really explain where they are in respect to everything. Like you don't need to know that it's set in the 60s. It's not important. But what you should know is, like when they're in their junior year, all they have is like, oh, we're going into a new class, but they don't explain is that their junior year, their senior year, is that just because it doesn't explain why something comes after another, and I got a little lost in that, and for that I gave it the lower score. However, I enjoyed it immensely, and that's why it is above a 5.
So I gave story a 9 because I guess when I think about story with these types of shows, I base it a lot on character interactions and like I'd say the story that's going on between the characters. And so what I'd like to point out, and I'd definitely like to get into more detail about it, it felt very mature. Like you said, Javon, not everything was necessary. Like some of the choices that they made were strange, but I at the same time, it felt very real to me. It felt very real and very mature, and like the romances and just I don't know. Just in general, it felt it really hit home in a way, and I thought for that reason deserved a pretty high score. So I gave it a 9. And like Thomas, I immensely enjoyed this show. So.
Alright. I gave it a 7. I agree with Thomas with a lot of things. Like there are a lot of like sort of time skips that just aren't really. If you blink, you might like not notice them until something's brought up. As far as like why it's not higher, it is a character-driven show, and I think that the characters take precedence over the story in this. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's not a plot-driven show, so you don't want to give it a high plot score?
I mean, like
something like that?
What I really want to say is that just the plot is not really, like, fair. They're just sort of, going about their lives.
I mean, it's a slice of life in a lot of ways. So,
snapshot of life, if you will.
As always.
I could also totally say I agree with the point that it feels like it goes a bit fast at times, but I don't. At the same time, being a 12-episode anime, it had to go a little fast, and I also don't think it needed more. I think this was an appropriate length. I think if it dragged on longer, it would have fell off a lot.
It needed to go at this pace, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah.
I talked to Jovan a couple days ago about the pacing of it, and he said that he had read the manga, and he told me that the manga is just as long, and I was surprised as well that it goes the entire length of the manga. It goes to 8 years after they graduate, which
it should be noted that the manga goes slightly longer, but it's about the same. Almost the same.
I was surprised, definitely.
Yeah. But like I was talking before, I'm glad it did that, because if we had just gotten like a snapshot of some of the manga, let's say we got like the first half, just like the first half of their high school career, I would be furious. Because with the exception of a minor change in the ending, which I mean we'll talk about later, it really did stay loyal. It did well. And I think that it really should be commended for being able to do that in such a short time. With that, I guess we'll go to characters, due to the fact that characters are really, really what matter here. So my character score was an 8.5 out of 10, because A, that's a high score, and B, because these were good characters. Specifically, there were 4 or 5 characters who really mattered. You had your main character on the piano, you had his, I want to say best friend, tentatively, on the drums.
He was 100% the best friend.
Not at first, he wasn't, but yeah, fair enough. Nor maybe at the end, but you're right, I guess he is the best friend. The love interest girl, and then two other characters who I count as main, who kind of weaved in and out, and then a slew of supporting cast. Maybe not a wide slew of supporting cast, but a deep slew of supporting cast. I prefer that more, to be honest. I think the characters were fantastic. I think that they were very unique characters. I think this is definitely a very stylized anime. It reminds me a little bit of Rainbow, which we reviewed a while back, in its depiction of how characters work, of how characters interact with each other, and how like what they want and like how they are like is sent to the outside world. The tone of character interaction reminds me greatly of Rainbow, and I really appreciated that. I think the characters were all just a little bit weird, just a little bit like off from regular society, and they were supposed to be, right? They were the jazz movement. They were weird and unique, and they found each other, and that's all they really had in that like crazy world. They were not their parents' generation. Wow, that sounded really edgy. God, help me. But I think that they depicted that really, really well. I think that it was fantastically done, and I think that no action in this story went against a character. Went against a character's character. Nobody acted out because of the plot. They acted out because they wanted to or they needed to. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. So this is an 8.5 out of 10, but let me know that that is a 8.5 with high praise.
I give it an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed the characters very much, and the main thing I wanted to talk about in this section is that the main character is a bit whiny, and that's okay because they did it all right. He's not obnoxious. It's not like his character to be whiny. He just is a character who happens to whine every once in a while. Like there's a total difference between the main character, Mirai Nikki, I don't remember his name, I don't care, and this guy. And because like they're two immensely different characters. This guy right here, he is full, he's rounded, he has plans, he knows what he's going to do, and he's still trying to figure a lot of things out, and he's got like this great supporting cast of people like helping him, and he's helping other people, and then this guy is just like a flat character who just gets shit on all the time and just wants to shit on other people. Like, I don't care about him.
Yo, Karu, get in the robot.
And like he's just so like there was a point where I noticed like he lashes out at one of the characters and he like runs away, and I was like, if this was anyone else I would hate this guy, but like I understand, like, they explain why he acts like this, and he doesn't need a huge backstory to explain it. In the very first episode, you just see that he doesn't get along well with his aunt, who he's living with, but that's all you need. He doesn't have the tragic, like, oh, my father moved away after my mom died. Like, it's not there. Like, it kind of explains it, but it's not important. It shoves it under the rug and allows you to see how he matures past that. And that's what's fantastic. And there's definitely a change between him in the beginning and at the end, and it doesn't seem forced, and it feels fantastic. I gave it an 8, maybe an 8.5.
We're both like, best thing I've ever seen, 8. Steven picks it for us, man.
Yeah, I give characters a 9. I think the main place where it loses points for me is, like you said, there were two main characters that wove in and out. And I think they maybe could have had more, but I'm also on the fence with that because the way they were taken out was really good. I don't know. So I'm a bit on the fence about it. And some of the supporting characters did seem a little shallow. They were good for the most part. But I'm specifically thinking of the guy with the really high-pitched, annoying voice, the flamboyant dude who wanted to be a star. Yeah, he kind of annoyed me a bit. He seemed like a pretty flat character. But the main characters were absolutely phenomenal, and I'm going to save a lot of my character talk. But they did a lot of both character development and regression. Like, some bad thing would happen and they kind of go back to their old selves. And I really thought that was extremely realistic, extremely well done. And for that reason, I gave characters a 9.
You've stolen my favorite point. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Sorry.
Oh boy. Well, I also gave characters a 9. this may actually be the highest character score I've given. And the main reason why it's a 9 for me is the relationship between the main character and his best friend. They feel like best friends. Like, they think about each other, but they also think about themselves. They get into arguments, they resolve it, like, they give each other advice, they do, like, they hang around each other, they do, like, everything with each other, and yet they're still, like, individual people. And I can really appreciate that. It felt very real, and it felt like... I mean, like, the type of anime that this is like a bromance anime in a way. And so, because of that, I feel like it's really important for this to work, and it did.
9 out of 10, perfect romance.
Fair enough.
I like it. All right, so moving on to animation. All right. That was a sigh, but it's not a sigh of like, oh, this animation is bad. It's, oh, this animation might be polarizing. It's different.
Yeah.
Once more, the tone of the animation reminds me a lot of Rainbow, but the actual style was its own. I can't tell if it was CG and hand-drawn over, or if it was just, this is how he decided to make this show. If somebody wants to check that while I'm talking, go for it.
I'm just getting that you're on the negative end of this polarization.
That's the thing, though. I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. I thought that the characters looked very unique from each other, all of them. I think that, like, me, could tell characters apart, and that's pretty good for me. They weren't even color-coded, so I'm really proud of that. But, I think character designs and, like, almost the animation of their music really sold it for me. That said, because of the polarizing nature, and I do believe that this is a polarizing art style, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. As a well above average, very good, but should not be the selling point for this show, I don't think.
Huh.
Long faces.
Long faces.
I gave it an 8.5.
Wait, did you?
Oh, sorry, no, I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8. 8. Solid 8.
Background panicking.
Yeah, sorry. Sad show that just came out recently about piano.
Your Lion
it's- Your Line April was, like, people went crazy over it because it showed the fingers hitting the right keys. This show came out 10 years before it showed the fingers hitting the right keys.
Hardy
Like, it showed
also did
him
that.
doing it. How did he? Oh,
Yeah.
I never watched it.
To be fair,
I can't say.
Hardy is perfect, so...
But so, like, beyond that though, it's fluid. Oh my god, I loved watching him drum. Amazing. The Satoru, he probably was the best part as far as animation's concerned. Anytime he got on the drum set, you knew you were in for a treat. It's just so fast, and then they do a very great job of having the blur frames of his sticks in multiple places at once, but hitting the right drum for the set, and that was my favorite part of it. It was very fluid. Other than that, it may have had a couple hiccups. I didn't really notice too many. Stylistically, I enjoyed it. So it is a two-toned anime, but instead of having the hard line between, like, say, like, the shadow of the jaw and then, like, where it's, like, lightly colored, it fades like a normal shadow. And it looks I like that a little better than the stark contrast that we have typically nowadays. And the girl that the main character liked was pretty but plain. She wasn't like this overall, like, beautiful woman. She was like, yeah, okay, I like her, and very, like, welcoming, somewhat homely. That's a bad word. A nicer, gentler sort of way. Sort of pretty. And yeah, 8 out of 10. I liked it, and the backgrounds were all right.
I would like to jump in on that and just say that this might be the only anime. That's probably not true, but it's one of the only anime in which, like, I actually, like, for most anime, we talked about this earlier, where all anime girls, like, look vaguely the same, and it's like you have to be told which ones are the more beautiful ones, often through fan service. In this show, because of the weird animation style, the humans looked human, which it sounds silly, but no anime ever actually does that. You will never see an anime person who looks like a person, except here, where they really do, and you can understand like how someone's supposed to look, who's plain, who's not, who's rugged, who's bigger, who's smaller, who's thinner, who's more normal looking. I loved the fact that humans look like humans for once.
There's also Flowers of Evil, which also made me think, what if this is rotoscoped? I didn't look into it, but...
Stop that.
I really don't think it's rotoscope. Oh god.
Okay.
Yeah, no. But jumping right off of what Javon was saying about how real they look, like they actually look human, it's a big part of why I gave this a 10. I truly thought this was a masterpiece, especially like the fluid animation. Like there are times he's drumming, you can like see his wrist rolling as like he's hitting the drums, and it's fantastic. The actual animation is beyond extraordinary. And then I guess maybe it could be polarizing, but I didn't think of it as something that would be polarizing. I just thought the style was beautiful in itself. I really loved the way the characters were so real and like just they were so different from each other, and I don't know, it was absolutely beautiful to me. And it even seems like the art was very meticulously done so that everything had a purpose. And again, absolutely fluid so much. I really thought the animation was a masterpiece here. I definitely did think it was the selling point of the show. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Alright, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it was really well done and it's very crisp. There are some points where it kind of is a normal anime. I don't know how else to put it, but it does the same thing as most anime does, where like characters lose detail and the frame rate kind of goes down. But its high points are incredibly high, like everybody is saying. The drumming is very well done. You can almost like see him hitting each individual note, which is really nice. The color palette is kind of muted. That's not really a bad thing or a good thing for me. I'm just gonna point that out. But I think it adds to the down-to-earth feeling that the anime has. And yeah. Also, girls have jawlines. Yeah.
I thought another reason that it might have been muted is to give it the older feel to older aesthetic.
Yeah.
That too.
Once more, strongly reminded me of Rainbow during the we're at this tree scenes.
Yeah.
So
That's another reason I thought it was such a masterpiece as well. The color palette was really well. That's what I was trying to get at when I said everything's meticulously done. Like, all the drawings, all the colors. It seems like they have a purpose, and I'm still in shock. Like I really thought it was amazing.
I think we were all very impressed by this show. So with that in mind, let's just jump into sound, because it's a music anime.
Kind
or
of.
at least it begins as such.
Oh, one more thing. If you hate noses, you might actually hate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. True.
That's very true.
Like I said, I feel like you have to know what you're about to watch. Like, animation is gonna be... I think all four of us personally loved it. But, like, be warned.
The noses was a little weird. They had, like, not 2D noses. They kind of had 3D noses.
Some of them
and
had
it's
really
like,
long noses.
Yeah.
I think it really was just the show trying to make people look like people, but...
Yeah.
sometimes anime doesn't look like people for a reason.
I don't know, I have
Noses
a
are
pretty
that
long
reason.
nose.
Your nose is not very long, sir. Nice profile shot, though. All right, and moving on to sound. It at least begins as a music anime, and although it does not really end as such, music does play a major role, specifically jazz and the blues, and I think it nailed it pretty well. I really enjoyed the sound to this. I enjoyed the voice acting was not just the voice acting, but almost I want to say filter that the voice acting was run through. It felt just slightly older, as if I was watching something like a recording from 1960. Not quite, but slightly. And maybe that's just like poor quality from their part, but I think it actually did help for me. I liked it a lot. I liked the quality of how that worked. I enjoyed the voice acting myself. I think it was fine. And most importantly, I think the music was it was solid, which, I would hope. So that's a 9 out of 10 over here.
I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. The opening was good. I liked it. I might say I liked it a lot, but I'm not sure. I have to listen to it a couple more times. But so the theme of the entire thing is based off of one song that I can't remember off the top of my head. They talk about it in the first episode. Monin. Yeah, so Monin is like the entire theme, and it plays throughout the entire show in different variations, with different solos and melodies coming through. And then so about halfway through, it kind of switches temporarily so that you get a theme for one character, and it's from The Sound of Music. It's Raindrops and Roses, some of my favorite things. And that is... I was impressed that they even had that, because Sound of Music is a little bit notorious for being expensive to have any of the rights borrowed. So, like, cool, 20th Century Fox, you did it. They definitely gave the rights to the right show because they did justice to it. But Monin was definitely the main point of the show. So I would say my favorite things show the bridge between the main character and the girl, and it's kind of like it shows up later, and it's not as big, it's not important, because Monin helps illustrate just how important the main character was to Sentaru. Like, they were everything to each other, and they always played that song. That was their song, and it plays throughout the entire show, just to remind you every single time you hear it that it's about those two. That I don't know if this is true, but maybe every time the song plays, it's the main character thinking about the guy. I don't remember. Just a thought I had right now. Thought it was fantastic. And then, yeah, 9 out of 10. I don't really have anything else to say.
Can I actually ask a question? Like, did everyone else recognize the song immediately upon hearing it? Like, at least at the level of like, hey, I've heard this before.
Which song?
Or was that just Monin?
Actually, no, but mostly because I don't listen to...
familiar.
I don't know. To me, it's like, when I hear jazz, like, I've always defaulted to almost that exact thing. And so, I don't know. I just thought it was...
on their part.
I mean, I'm not well versed in jazz, so maybe I'm just crazy, but I really feel like it was a good choice, and like a very recognizable choice.
I think it goes up and down the blues scale for the very first bit. I think that's why it might be recognizable.
Okay. So anyway, I give sound a 10 out of 10. I'd actually like to point out the voice acting at first, because they're in Kyushu, which the subtitles, at least on Crunchyroll, very much reflected it. It's kind of like similar to like an American Southern dialect, kind of like like instead of like moaning instead of moaning, like that sort of thing. And the voice acting was really well done. Like, if you actually hear a Japanese... I can hear it more with females, so, like, Ritsuko's voice was extremely Kyushu, and if you'd ever actually heard a Japanese person talking that way, you'd immediately know that it's very well done. So I thought that was exceptional, and again, it's about the music. There was even one scene where they're on the roof and he's running through the blankets. There's like this weird rock song that starts playing, and like that's one that'll probably stick out in my memory. Like, even beyond what they're actually playing, the soundtrack itself is lovely. It's memorable. Although they use a couple of the same songs over and over, like Monin especially, there's still a lot of variation throughout the show. Like, that one I was just talking about just showed up out of nowhere, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, I thought the soundtrack was absolutely fantastic. Anything else about sound? I didn't actually get what you were talking about like a filter, Javon, but...
Maybe I just have really bad headphones, man.
I don't know.
But for me, it added to the experience.
I didn't get that, but I almost felt like... again, Ritsuko's voice especially felt very fitting.
Especially Ritsuko for me as well, actually, when I'm talking about the filter, especially when she talked.
It felt kind of like... It didn't seem like a filter to me. It just felt to me like her voice actor was doing an extremely good job at both the Kyushu and the time period, like encapsulating all of that in the voice. So, 10 out of 10.
I wanted to say real quick, I don't know Japanese. I can't really recognize it. I can kind of recognize a little bit, but I guess maybe partially because I've watched anime for so long, I heard the difference. I really did. Yeah. I was like, oh, whoa, they totally are speaking differently. Yeah. Except the main character. I don't think he spoke differently.
Well, because he's from Tokyo, right?
He's from Tokyo, so
yeah,
he would speak differently, and I also noticed that. I gave sound a 9 out of 10. Just like the other half of the screen.
Hey.
Yeah, I agree with like everything that everyone's saying. Besides the music, what really like impressed me was like actual like sound effects. Like, I remember hearing scissors, and they actually sounded like, you know, slightly worn scissors that the blades were kind of grinding against each other on a material that I can't really, I guess I could say, but I won't because we're not in spoiler.
Oh.
Yeah, that they did a good job with that, actually. Now I remember. Yeah.
It was like really amazing to me because like normally it's just the stock scissor sounds.
What it actually sounded like.
Yeah.
No, you're right, and that's a very distinct noise too. So
yeah, 9 out of 10. I don't really have any more comments to say.
Well, I guess with all that in mind, we're ready to jump into the spoiler section. Now, remember, if what we've told you now has made you want to watch this, and God, I hope it has, pause. Leave the Twitch stream, pause the YouTube video, go. We will be back. We'll be waiting. Don't worry about it. You can just pause us. You can go watch the whole thing. It's 12 episodes long. It won't take you that long. Then come back to us. We are on youtube.com/WeTaku. I hope you're watching our video already and know how you got here. Come back, then discuss the spoilers with us. That said, if you just want to be spoiled or you want to keep going, please do, because I cannot wait for this discussion. So with all that in mind, you will have spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the spoiler section. As always, I'm going to start with the most important question. Who was best girl?
Sentaru. He was awesome.
I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe Sentaro. Maybe I agree with that. But I also like Ritsuko a lot.
I did like Ritsuko. I prefer Sentaro. I think Sentaro is like a deeper, like more raw character.
I have a worst girl.
Alright.
It's the main character.
Aww.
We'll get to it.
Not the flamboyant guy.
Right? I hated him. I felt like he represented like modern anime. I'm gonna get some flack for that, but I really do feel like that was like their understanding of like how a lot of the characters are nowadays. Like they have to be out and about and like grabbing your attention, but like and it seems bizarre and he's weird in this environment, and then everyone else is like much more down to earth, and you don't care about him, you care about them.
Yeah,
and I think they did a good job with that.
He wanted to be a star, so I really do think it could have been like their actual commentary on like modern anime, possibly like putting that character in there and then him wanting to be on television.
I would like to remind you guys that this anime came out in 2012. No, never mind. I was wrong. I thought it was
2012.
Yeah, it's
I could have sworn this was 2005 somehow.
no,
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
not
old.
that old.
I mean, we all sang its praises in animation. I just figured, like, it's because it's not shiny. I kind of put it
Yeah, because it's not. I actually want to say one more
Thought
thing
that
about.
10 years before.
I actually want to say one more thing about sound before we like do anything, because I kind of forgot about this.
Right.
I really liked how the difference between like the him playing the piano in the beginning and after like practicing jazz, like you could tell that he was really stiff in the beginning with his playing, and I just really appreciate that they sort of loosened him up, not
He added
only in
swing
his
to it.
personality, but like, yeah, especially having taken like a couple months of piano. Don't judge me. Like that was definitely a problem that I had when I was playing. So, yeah, good on them.
No, that is incredible. Nobody can look at this anime and tell me they did not pay attention to detail. You will be wrong. That said, I do want to talk about Sentaro's character, since we kind of gave him a unanimous and a half-ish. Mostly unanimous, minus a half-ish. Best girl. I want to talk about not just his beginning of like that intimidating guy who was like, "Jazzer, get out of here, punk." And he started off very stereotypical, I'm not gonna lie. Of the Jazzer, get out of here, but like also beats up the bullies kind of guy. Into once you got more of his actual life, his relationship with his family, his perception of how he was treated by his family versus the reality of how he was treated with his family. My God, that one was big. I want to talk about that for a second. I think that was the most important point of his character the entire time, was the fact that this is my stepdad. He doesn't love me like the other kids. I'm not worth it. I'm not part of this family. His stepdad comes back and is like, "Hey, son, here's this gift I bought you. It's really expensive because I love you." It's like, oh.
And then going on with that, when the sister was in the hospital and someone, I can't remember, but someone said something about Sentaro and the dad defended him. Or, well, the stepdad defended him. That was a very small thing, but it felt very powerful to me.
It was so important because Sentaro runs away because in his mind he's failed his family. By the way, guys, we are at like the very end. Sentaro runs away. In his mind, he's failed his entire family. He's proven to himself that he's not a part of this family. He hurt his sister, his stepsister. He's a problem child. He doesn't deserve it. He runs away. But in reality, his family still loved and accepted him. His friends still wanted him around. Well, Kaoru was kind of a dick about it. But for the most part, his friends loved him and wanted him around. But he ran away all the same. Because somebody, I think, either Steven or Thomas said it, that the characters regressed back into their bad habits, even though presented with fact otherwise. Steven? All right. A, that is how anxiety happens. That's how that goes. And B, it was incredible. It was an incredible part of who he was. And that's the decision most that I think made this anime like really, really good for me at the very end, was that it wasn't quite perfect. It wasn't the perfect ending. He hasn't grown into such a unique and beautiful butterfly of a character that he's immune to all of his previous worries or anxieties or pains or stresses. When confronted with like an incredible, huge, bad failure, especially to him, the worst thing he could have done in his own situation, he ran away. and I think that says a lot about his character. I think that says a lot about their willingness to keep him as him. I think that was the perfect. There's nowhere else his character could go but there.
I think they could have done a good job. It would have changed the tone that they may have been going for. I don't know if they're trying to go for this, but I think it would have been cool. No, they definitely didn't need to do this. It would have been cool to see it as more of like society expects him to do this because he's the bastard child. They expect him to be the failure, yet his family's like, and he just keeps getting bombarded by it. But his family's like the support, but he doesn't really see them anyway, or he just thinks that they're like trying to make him not think about it. They don't do that, but I thought it would be an interesting dynamic. But that's my thought. I don't know.
I'm glad they didn't, if only because it would also be difficult for him to have the view he does about his family. While, like, if his family was as supportive as they are, it's easy when it's easy when you don't see the world just bombarding him and then him retreating to his family who supports him. It's different when, like, you don't see that. It's all internal. I prefer that they kept it that way, but I can understand, like, the more I talk about it, I can really understand where you're coming from, and maybe I do want that now.
They made it, like, very clear that he didn't care about really anything other than other people. Like, all he ever wanted was, like, he took care of his siblings. At the very end, he went and took care of orphan children. He had the bird that he took care of. Like, all he ever wanted to do was take care of other people or, you know, animals, whatever. But he didn't care about school. He got into fights, but like he was the most kind-hearted person you'd ever meet. And on the opposite side of that, and also when I talk about characters regressing, if you don't mind me switching the subject a little bit now, the main character Kaoru, he was like, mind you, I liked the way his character was written a lot. I thought it was phenomenal, but he was a bad dude. Like, he like almost sexually assaulted Ritsuko at one point, and like just randomly made out with her kind of towards the beginning of the show, and like
but
yeah, but like she wasn't okay with it.
yes.
And then he goes even farther than that later, and like the entire time you just see the uncomfortable look on her face, and she's saying stop, and it's just like, and the reason is that he's hurt. And he like doesn't know what else to do. It's like that sort of thing. He wants to feel something, and I really got that. And again, that's why I think the characters are written so well. It's also like you see how bad the hurt can make a person. So yeah, like you see him kiss her at the beginning, and he just kind of gives up on it. He's like, oh, whatever, this isn't gonna happen. It's fine, and he's happy again for a while until Sentaro leaves, and then he goes right back to that. He's like, well, I'm glad he's gone. I have you all to myself.
Yeah,
it's like
and I
very
like that.
Selfish. They're really
like
polar opposites. Sorry, Thomas.
That's fine. I cut across you. I like that to cope with the fact that she rejected him. He keeps pushing her and Sentaro together. Even though I'm not so sure if she really even liked Sentaro ever.
At the end of the day, she thought she did, but she didn't, I think was the conclusion.
Yeah. I was just wondering if maybe like he had misinterpreted that she liked someone else that wasn't even one of the main characters. But okay, yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure it was Sentaro.
Yeah, it was, and like that whole pushing them together in his mind, that it was a very realistic thing to do. Like, I think a lot of people would cope with that sort of thing that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the characters were really, Sentaro and Kaoru were really polar opposites of each other in every single way, and yet they got along so well, and that's really what made that friendship so beautiful.
Definitely.
All right, I want to talk about another thing about the ending, the very ending now. So, I talked about the show at the very beginning. It's snapshots. Here we get a snapshot 8 years later, the very end. Kaoru is a doctor now. He finds Sentaro again. They find Ritsuko again at the bottom of a slope that they run down. Once more, they run down a slope, no longer kids. If you weren't aware of the symbolism, Ritsuko is waiting for them at the bottom of a slope. Anywho, I want to talk about that ending and how people felt about it. If they felt like it was stolen from them, or if they felt like... To me, having known where the manga goes, and the differences there, it's definitely... The manga is an actual conclusion.
Well, enlighten us. What's the difference?
All right, spoiler warning for anybody who wants to read the manga. Ritsuko and Kaoru are married. They have a kid. Well, she's pregnant with their kid. It's just a few, like, loose ends tied together after finding everybody. Sentaro is found again, actually. He, once more, is training to become a priest. Most of it's the same, but it's a few loose endings tied up with the characters. You have Junichi and the girl, Junichi's girl.
Utica.
Thank you. Also married. Have, I think, a kid and another one on the way.
Yeah, we saw that actually.
You see that in the studio,
Okay.
Yeah.
I've lost track of what happened and what didn't. I didn't watch this one the day of, like I do everything else. So it's not quite as fresh. Also, spoiler warning, I'm a terrible person. So, okay, I'm glad we did see that. That's my bad for dropping it. Really, it's Ritsuko and Kaoru that are, like, the biggest difference for me. The fact that she's not just waiting for Sentaro and Ritsuko, or she's not just waiting for Sentaro and Kaoru, like, as their friend at the bottom of that hill, but the fact that there is a firm conclusion there. Past that, though, I almost prefer the way the anime handled it, because it was just another snapshot. It wasn't the final snapshot in their book. It was just another one.
So
The story continues.
I think I like it looking through your lens of like seeing this as snapshots, but when I was watching through it, I almost kind of wished it just ended before they went and found Sentaro. I would have actually been okay if it ended there. Like, personally, I'm not a fan of happy endings. I think happy endings are way overdone, and so I'm not a huge fan of them anymore. So I really think this anime, yeah, I don't think it lost anything by going and wrapping some more things up, but I also think it could have done without it. They could have just ended it. They graduated, Sentaro was gone, they all went their separate ways, because, you know, that's life. And, like, I really thought that would have been a pretty good way to do it. Like, they're all living their own lives, that's just, you know, you graduate high school and go your separate ways. With that being said, they were really good friends, and they went and met up again, and I also think that's a perfectly fine way of ending it. I don't really have strong feelings about it.
I think what was important is that they do see Sentaro. So I think that it is important to see Sentaro because it is an anime about friendship, and you know, friends come and go, but like they had a little more than like your typical friendship. And honestly, I wish that Ritsuko wasn't in the end. I didn't think she was necessary. She didn't add anything to it except you're like, oh wow, she's 8 years older. Look, she cut her hair. But like they it's not. She wasn't necessary. I think he could have just seen Sentaro with like the kids, and then they play their jazz, and then they like exit through the door, and that could have been it. I think
They need
that
to
would
go
have been
down
fine.
the slope, and there needs to be something waiting for them down the slope, Thomas.
Honestly, like Jovan, you said that there needs to be more of an ending. Steven said there needs to be less. I think there needs to be a little less, but not quite as much less.
To
Slope.
present
You need the
another
slope.
alternative, maybe Kaoru could have still just ran into Utica in the train station, and she'd be like, "Here, look, Sentaro, he's on this island raising some kids. He's doing fine." Like, you know, you still get the happy ending. Like, you know, Sentaro is okay. He's doing what he wants to do. That sort of thing.
That ending actually happens more often than you might think in anime,
Fair enough.
and when it does, I find it incredibly unsatisfying. That they're just like, "Well, good job, you did it, you made it in life, friend. I'm never gonna contact you again. Bye bye."
And could just have him buy a ticket, and I think that would have
They
also
could,
been
if
good.
they had him buy a ticket, I think it would have been the perfect thing. But
Yeah.
you can't buy a ticket and then also walk down a slope, and they
Yeah.
really had to bank in that name.
Uh,
No, I've been making a lot of jokes about the slope, but it was important. that's how they started the anime, of him watching Sentaru run down the slope, and it's like, what does he see at the end of the slope that I don't? And then in the end, he goes down that slope with him. In a roundabout way, I think that was a really, really important way to end it. So that's my 2 cents on I open at the close or whatever. Do we have anything else we want to say about this?
I wanted to bring up Junichi and Yurika's relationship, actually. That's one of the big things I thought felt really mature, even if not 100% realistic. Like that end moment. To be fair, we didn't get a lot of screen time with them to begin with, so like, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little unfortunate that they had to leave so early, but also necessary. But that final scene with them where he's on the train and then she comes up and is like, "Will you please take me with you?" And then he just kind of pulls her into the train at the last second. Like, it was a beautiful moment, and it felt so absolutely mature. Like, they ran away together, and like, I can't say that would realistically happen, but it really felt like it could have. And it, like, I don't know, it was just a really kind of heavy subject matter, almost.
I liked that he didn't do it until he saw that the family was chasing after her. Like he was kind of pushed into doing it, pushed into pulling her in, rather than like being like, "Oh, it's because I love you." It's like, "Oh, but this could happen if I don't take you now. What are the repercussions?" Like, it has to have been going through his mind, like at like breakneck speed, and then he's like, "Fuck it," and takes her.
Yeah, like I said, it's a very mature thing. It's either be with the person you love or be forced into a marriage you don't want to be in, because it was about an arranged marriage, right?
Well, from her perspective, it's that, but from his perspective, it's maybe love this person, but also like hurt them, or just run away myself. And both I think were very valid options, but for him, it was pushed into, she won't be happy if I leave, and I'm already not happy, so fuck it.
Time to go.
I just think that's really, really deeper than a lot of anime tend to go with their romances. Even though they weren't the main characters, it was a really mature and really deep romance.
I liked them a lot.
Yeah. So.
Allan, were you going to say something?
Not really.
Alright, I thought I cut you off earlier. I think with that in mind, it's time to go into final thoughts and ratings. So for me, I gave this, as I desperately searched through my things, an 8.5 out of 10. I thought that this anime was spectacular. I thought it was incredible. Hands down, wonderful. I loved it. It lives up to everything I wanted. A little bit different from the manga at other points as well, but like for the most part, it's an anime. It's never going to be exactly the same, and they brought the music to life, and it mattered. It mattered. That said, this is not my genre of anime. It's an unfortunate truth, but it's a truth all the same. This is not a show I can marathon. This is a show that's incredibly difficult to marathon, I believe. I think it's realistic. I think it's heavy. I think it's wonderful and incredible and so deep and beautiful. But I don't think, like, in terms of sheer enjoyment, it was my favorite. There are objectively worse things I've enjoyed, and there are objectively better things I've enjoyed. I think it's an incredibly good show. But for everything we've talked about, and of course, for everything we've talked about have been really great. But at the end of the day, this is not my genre. This is not my favorite thing. This is not what I will sit down and, like, seek out on my own time, I don't think. Maybe this one specifically I would, but not more than once. So it's an 8.5, but a strong recommendation if you are into anything remotely similar to this. And still a recommendation if you're not. Give it a shot and see how you feel.
I give it an 8, as you can see way over there. But, so, I would actually agree with Jovan on a point, and this isn't really something you should marathon. This is one of those shows, and there are many like it, but there are a lot of ones that you can just, like, guzzle down. This is one where you should sit down and have a little morsel of it, just a bite-sized piece, and then go on with your day, and then come back to it, and go on with your day and come back to it. And you could probably do it, like, 3 episodes at a time, I think is probably happy medium. And I think it's the best way to enjoy the show. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's not looking. It's not like your typical slice of life shows. It's not really a comedy at all. It's not some down and depressing show. It's like, this is just a story, and here it is, and it's kind of like just naked in front of you, and you can take it if you want, leave it. It's fine. I very much like it. It is a little bit more mature, I would say, or at least it gives the illusion of being so. So watch it. I definitely recommend it.
Isn't Allan ahead of me here?
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't my turn. That was Allan's turn.
Thomas totally stole Allan's
I
turn.
was just gonna assume that we were going in the other order, but
Oh, you know what? Everything.
My bad.
We
needs
should
to be
sort
ordered.
that out eventually, but whatever.
I make the overlays, and moving them is hard. So no, thank you.
Okay, well, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. These sort of down-to-earth stories are something that I really enjoy, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone who also enjoys them. It's not necessarily the standard slice of life, but it's also, like Thomas said, it's not truly, like, it's not on either end of the spectrum. It's kind of just in the middle. It's kind of just there. I think it's very well done. If you are a fan of music, you should watch this, as well as animation. I think it's, yeah, those are my thoughts. Go, Steven.
One more final thought, because we didn't really bring it up. The English was not that bad.
No, I'm thoroughly disappointed.
Like,
Thank you.
Ritsuko pretty much sung the entire My Favorite Things song. And it was
it was alright.
pretty
Listen
good.
here. Listen here.
No.
If they're singing in English, and it's not broken, busted, and easy to make fun of, I'm heartbroken.
No.
Well, you're
You
gonna
could've just,
love,
like-
for next week, you're gonna love the Black Lagoon opening.
Oh boy.
No, no,
wait.
please spare me.
So
Anyhow,
excited.
I really thought this show was a true masterpiece. This really isn't my genre either.
Didn't you just say you changed your weebology degree to this?
Well, yes, I'm saying because I did love this show. Even though this isn't really in my favorite genre, I'm usually not a big fan of slice of life animes.
Still one of his favorite things.
But
I hate
True.
you.
No, you're a fan of rom-coms.
Kinda,
No.
I guess. But anyhow, regardless, I think this show was just a true masterpiece. I can't even think of anything else to say for it. Like, I'd highly, highly recommend it to everyone. It's just so well done. I would give it no less than a 10.
Shout out to Carson, my roommate from freshman year. He recommended this to me. Yeah.
Go Carson, go. All right, with all that in mind, I guess it's time to talk about what's coming up. So, coming up next, we have, and Steven spoiled it like 10 seconds ago, so thanks a lot, Steven. There goes
I've
my
done
big
that-
reveal.
Done that many times today, it seems.
Yeah, no, I'm not allowed to have nice things. That said, this is Steven's recommendation, so why don't you tell him what it is, why you chose it?
So Black Lagoon is basically gonna be just raw action, a lot of the time. It's like following this kind of band of criminals and their operations, and they live in like a kind of like a really crime-ridden city. I think it's like similar to Cuba somewhere. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it's just kind of think criminals and action, and that pretty much sums it up. We're watching season 1, mind you. Season 2 has a lot more of a overarching plot, but we're watching season 1 that tends to be a lot more episodic and just raw, unadult. I don't know what
Alright.
I was going for, but
Unadulterated violence. I like
yes,
it.
that.
Yeah, what is up with the sunglasses? All right, buddy.
Wait, when did he get those? What?
Welcome to Black Lagoon.
And the opening for Black Lagoon is all English, so Have fun.
You have no idea how excited I am now that you've said that.
No.
You have no idea how much I need this in my life now. I cannot wait. I don't know anything about Black Lagoon, so I'm diving in head first, and I'm gonna love it.
It's too
Now-
much.
Oh, I'd also like to point out Black Lagoon is the one anime I own all 3 seasons on Blu-ray.
Well, maybe we'll have to get the other ones on if we all like the first one. But, now with all that in mind, some other things coming up on the channel. I'm not going to spoil it, but for any of you who are musically inclined, keep an eye out on the WeTaku channel. Maybe something will come up. For all of you who like horror, the month after horror games are in chic, keep an eye out, because we might have some guys doing something with that. Who knows? Don't know why they decided it was November, but hey, calling you out.
Why not, man? Why not?
All right.
We'll see how it goes.
Real Taku is still on its way eventually, but the overlays are hard, and I am lazy.
College.
College is a thing that is happening, and I have 3 favorites to write this week, so you know what? Don't try me. With all that in mind, though, I think that's all that's coming up on the channel, and I do want you guys to keep your eyes open, because I know we're doing some recording today for at least one of the things. So, it's going to be a great time. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. You might see some stuff beforehand. Peace.
See ya.
Bye.